The MAGA civil war that we're seeing right now has been one of the few delightful surprises of Donald Trump's presidency. Now, I'm not surprised that ultimately this coalition would fracture and start eating their own, but the speed at which it happened is what shocks me. Now, what doesn't surprise me is Donald Trump's solution. In order to get MAGA back in line, he is going back to the basics, and that is racism. Yes, Donald Trump is bringing back the most disgusting and vile racist and xenophobic attacks that he can make because he thinks that that will unite the coalition. But they are now backfiring on him as a MAGA senator just attacked Melania and Barron Trump as this civil war is breaking out and as Donald Trump's racism gets worse and worse every day, as if that was possible. We are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into what this Republican senator had to say that is so humiliating towards Melania Trump, I want to start with the context, and that is Jasmine Crockett's call out of Melania and her immigration status.
In this country. And since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the First Lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here.
The hypocrisy is never surprising. This is the rules for thee but not for me administration. The corruption is so rampant. And Donald Trump, having run a presidential campaign in 2024, in which he almost exclusively talked about how he is such a victim, and that is the MAGA ideology. You see this girl who goes to the University of Oklahoma trying to get her trans professor fired, mostly because she's a trans professor, but because she said she was prosecuting her for Christian values, even though I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but if you've seen the story, you know what I'm talking about. She wrote one of the worst essays of all time, arguing that gender roles are important because God made women to be womanly and God wants women to have womanly intent. She just made a nonsense argument, but this is a little tangent, sorry, the victimhood complex of MAGA. It is persistent, and Donald Trump says that the big, strong, tough guys win after me. The system is rigged against me. But Donald Trump has rigged the system for himself, for his family, for wealthy and well-connected people all around him. It is why the most important really principle of this administration and this presidency has been pedophile protecting. That is what Donald Trump is focused on more than anything else, which is, again, why in this moment of chaos, he is going back to attacking the little guy with Carolyn Leavitt screaming at migrants.
And so that's why when the mainstream legacy media and those without a spine in our country say that President Trump's mass deportations have not gone far enough, President Trump says no, they haven't gone far enough because we must deport every illegal alien who Joe Biden allowed into this country. And not only do these people serve as a national security threat, they are also draining the resources of American taxpayers. Look no further than the great state of Minnesota that has been run into the ground by Democrat leadership, Governor Walz, who is completely incompetent, the Somali migration invasion of Minneapolis, where we now have fraud rings of Somali migrants who are stealing nearly $1 billion worth of taxpayer benefits in that city alone. And
all right. So Melania got a free ride and an easy pass to get into America, to get her citizenship. Of course, that is antithetical to everything that Donald Trump believes in now. The migrants who built this country, who sustained this country, by the way, are the ones that Carolyn Levitt is losing her mind over. And notice how that number is always climbing. Sometimes it's 20 million people, sometimes it's 30 million people. Here's another number for you, though, MAGA. I know you're saying that illegals are stealing your health care, but undocumented people in this country subsidize our health care system. They pay about $100 billion in taxes every single year. It's mostly going to payroll taxes. So we're seeing funding in Medicare, Social Security, unemployment. Yeah, so these people are actually subsidizing you, but MAGA doesn't want to confront that hard truth. They also don't want to confront the hard truth, again, about Melania, who is now being attacked for her status as an immigrant by a Republican senator. MAGA senator accidentally attacks Melania and Barron Trump. A Republican senator has accidentally roped in Donald Trump's wife and son into a radical plan to force U.S. citizens to renounce their foreign citizenship. Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio plans to introduce legislation that would end dual citizenship by requiring citizens to declare their exclusive allegiance to the U.S. The senator was born in Colombia but has renounced his Colombian citizenship. One of the greatest honors of my life was when I became an American citizen at 18, the first opportunity I could do so, he told Fox News Digital on Monday. It was an honor to pledge an oath of allegiance to the United States of America and only to the United States of America, Moreno said. Being an American citizen is an honor and a privilege, and if you want to be an American, it's all or nothing. It's time to end dual citizenship for good. Both Melania and Barron Trump remain dual citizens of the U.S. and Slovenia and would potentially be impacted by Moreno's planned legislation. They can really never see their own hypocrisy, can they? And honestly, this is the most important part. They don't really care to. They're happy to be hypocrites. They're happy to make rules for you, but not themselves. That is the entirety of the MAGA movement, the victim complex, the constant whining, the constant woe is me, only to realize the people that they are whining about are the people that they support the most. Like, it's always crazy to me when MAGA wants to tell these conspiracies, and in some instances, as it relates to Jeffrey Epstein, they're true of the billionaire pedophile ring and the elites and the liberals and the Hollywood and the New York and the D.C. Of course, it's true in the case of Jeffrey Epstein, but who was Jeffrey Epstein hanging out with the most? Donald Trump. But the talk about these boogeymen figures in which they're railing against the elites in the media, although it's fine for Jesse Waters to go to work in New York City every day and have the most watched cable show on television. He's not a media elite to them. They separate that out, but they rail against these elites, and they say that they hate them. Then they elect a billionaire president who doesn't give a shit about them, openly mocks them, but they also then give tax cuts to these guys, bigger tax cuts than we've ever seen before. So are you furious with the elites who are holding you down, or do you want to invoke a little bit of class consciousness and realize that, yes, these billionaires are making your life worse all the time? But no, they only see an elite being, Rachel Maddow saying it might be a good thing if people had food and shelter and healthcare, and that's their idea of the scary elite. It is not Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or Larry Ellison who is keeping them from having those things. The Walton family, for sure. No. It's the scary media elite, but not their media elite. Their media elite gets elected president. Do we see what's going on here? Their brains are so separated from reality that they can't even grapple with the fact that they are constantly espousing the most hypocritical statements. Their brains are truly broken. It is fairly idiotic when you just look at it. And speaking of fairly idiotic, you want to talk about another person who rails against the elite, the Ivy League educated, the media elite, the man who went to Princeton and was on Fox all the time, Pete Hegseth, the drunkest Secretary of Defense in history, who, of course, is broiled in his own scandal, which Rachel Maddow was calling out right here.
So now we know. Now we know why President Trump and his administration got so freaked out when Democratic lawmakers, military and intelligence veterans who are now in Congress, posted that video reminding American service members that they don't have to follow illegal orders. Now it makes sense why that caused such a freak out, right? I mean, it was sort of, on its face, a weird thing to get upset about. Not being obliged to follow illegal orders, that's like, the sun rises in the east. It's a very normal thing. It's a statement of law and of the basic ethos of the U.S. military. I mean, everybody in the U.S. military, every officer, every enlisted person, everybody is taught that you don't follow illegal orders. You can't follow illegal orders. You must not follow illegal orders. So why are these guys freaking out that members of Congress just reiterated that one very true, longstanding, non-controversial thing? Oh, now we know that's why they were freaking out about it. Because now we know that in September, just weeks ago, Donald Trump's defense secretary and former Fox News Weekend co-host Pete Hegseth reportedly gave a verbal order to kill everybody on board a boat in the Caribbean that was suspected of drug smuggling. It's according to the Washington Post, citing a person with direct knowledge of the operation. When a live drone feed showed 2 survivors of the attack on that boat clinging to the wreckage, a second missile was then fired at them to kill them, so as to comply with Hegseth's order that nobody should be left alive, even once they were shipwrecked and floating in the ocean, clinging to debris and obviously a threat to no one. Now, when I say this is a textbook example of an illegal order, I mean that literally. As Ryan Goodman from Just Security and others have since pointed out, in the Law of War Manual at the Defense Department, in the section on refusing to obey illegal orders, the quintessential example the manual gives of an illegal order that must be refused is, quote, for example, orders to fire upon the shipwrecked would be clearly illegal. Clearly illegal. That is what the senior military lawyer at Southern Command reportedly concluded about the Caribbean boat strikes. He was sidelined by the Trump administration after expressing that view, according to NBC News. That commanding officer of Southern Command stepped down from his post early, something almost unheard of. That also happened reportedly after he voiced concerns about whether these strikes were illegal. The UK, our closest intelligence ally, reportedly believes these strikes are so illegal that the UK has stopped sharing intelligence with us that might help the Trump administration carry out these strikes. Tonight, the Washington Post reports that some of Pete Hegseth's top civilian staff are, quote, deeply alarmed about the revelations of what Hegseth ordered and are contemplating, quote, whether to leave the administration because of it. It really seems like they've been caught doing something quite flagrantly, blatantly illegal.
Talk about the blatant hypocrisy of MAGA, the no new wars. I can't even get through that without laughing, unfortunately. The no new wars people who want to topple the government in Venezuela, who want to indiscriminately bomb innocent fishermen. I don't know what's no new wars about that, but sure. This is the hypocrisy of MAGA. These people are so brain broken, and we are going to continue to call them out on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.